On today's show, can Liberty's pack line defense outlast Longwood? We'll bring you highlights from the basketball game that came down to the very last second. For play number 2, we bring you 2 plays from the Flames' big man, Evan Maxwell. A putback dunk off the miss from AC Reed. Hey, let's see it again.
I would like to.
And he liked that so much, he would decide to do it again later in the game also. This time off the miss from Anthony Fields, the big man providing plenty of highlights for the Flames so far this season. And hey, having said that, it's almost as if I knew Evan Maxwell would also have the #1 play this month.
Yeah, you either can see the future or you looked at the rundown.
The men's basketball team with lots of exciting plays so far this year. They're keeping fans on their feet.
No doubt about that.
And I understand you used to swim back in the day.
I was a chubby little kid that liked to swim in cold water in the lakes of Canada. It was like 5 degrees. I don't know what my parents were thinking, but hey.
Yeah, that does not seem safe at all.
No, but it was still fun.
Okay, let's get to En Fuego.
En Fuego, John Dawson.
And what a week for Liberty alum Rashad Jennings. The New York Giants taking on Philadelphia Eagles at MetLife Stadium. Jennings had a season-high 170 rushing yards and 27 carries in the game. 2 big wins, UNC Asheville, Campbell, preparing for the big conference meet. What are you guys working on right now? You got a whole month to prepare.
Yeah, we are.
I'm now joined by head coach Jody Murphy. Now, Jody, what's the process been like in getting that invitation and eventually deciding to join the Big East? Well, yeah, you mentioned all the strong programs. What do you think will be the biggest challenge for the girls in adjusting to the Big East?
They'll fill the shoes and fill their roles.
The Flames rank first in the Big South in scoring defense, while the Eagles first in scoring offense. Liberty men's basketball opening up the 2016 calendar year back home at the Vine Center, taking on UNC Asheville. The Bulldogs currently undefeated in the Big South, while the Flames looking for the first conference win. Asheville started off hot, ahead by 16 in the first half. Second half, Bulldogs with a 22-point lead over the Flames, but Liberty rallied with a 10-0 run, cutting the lead to just 8. And check this out, 66 seconds left in the game. Anthony Fields with that reverse layup, but it wasn't enough for Liberty. Flames fall to UNC Asheville 76-69. Lavelle Cabell scored 16 points in the game. Well, that about does it for us here at Game On, but don't worry, you can catch us anytime on Twitter, Facebook, or you can even go to GameOnLU.com. Well, Evan, the highest scoring game against a Division I opponent all season. You guys have not beat Winthrop since December 2010. What did you learn about your team tonight? Coach McKay has preached all season, we before me. How important is being unselfish to this Liberty team?
It's everything.
Well, guys, despite the youth, I talked with Coach Hendricks before the game. She told me this is the hardest working team she's ever had. They're always asking for extra film, extra shots, and the coaching staff also pretty young. They have a combined age of 140, which makes an average of 30 years old for each coach, making them the second youngest coaching staff in Division I women's basketball. Guys.
Fascinating, and it's exciting.
Coach Green, coming into the game, you told me a key for a win today would be staying focused on the defensive end. You guys have held them to 14 points in the first 2 quarters. How do you think you guys have played?
Well, obviously great on defensive end.
I know after that Georgia loss, you guys have concentrated on that, having fun. How much fun is it? Score 21 points in a game.
It's fun. It's fun.
Let's check in once more with Britton Lynn. Britton?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I sat in on that last huddle. Heard the coaches just encouraging the guys, saying this defense is doing much better, but we really got to work on those rebounds and making sure we don't let them get that second shot.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Coach, how do you think the team's done in controlling the pace of the game against this up-tempo Lamar team?
Britton, we haven't done much right at all.
Well, congrats on the win. I know Coach Green often preaches to you guys, preparation beats determination. How hard has this team worked off the court to get those 5 straight wins?
We've worked really hard.
I know you mentioned the rhythm. Ashley Reiniger back. A lot of people wondering how that would affect the rhythm of the team. How did it feel? Right now, he's one of the top scorers for Winthrop's basketball team, but it wasn't always that way. Back in high school, he never even made the varsity team. That's because he just weighed 90 pounds, was only 5'4" as he battled Crohn's disease. Fast forward 5 years, he's coming off a 29-point game. And when I talked with him, he said he loves being able to encourage other kids in the community who are fighting the same disease he once fought. Coach, you mentioned to me yesterday that the fast-paced offense can oftentimes have negative effects on the defense. How do you prevent that from happening?
Well, we did. We had a great...
Speaking of being there for your team, you had 22 points tonight, tying a career high, stepping up when Ashley Reiniger's been out with an injury. How much has that changed your role on the team?
I think
You also had another incredible experience going to Pasadena, winning a national championship.
Maybe the word bounty wasn't on it,
but there were rewards for big hits and knockout shots.
So it happens everywhere. This is a big issue. It's really hurting players. What is your solution to the problem? How do you stop this?
Well,
Hey guys, welcome back to Sideline for week 5 of Inside the House. He recognized a familiar face and is focusing on what needs to be done. Now, 2 weeks ago, he actually tied the record when he got his 309th win against Homewood High School. 19-7, they're moving to state. Rick, JJ, back to you guys in this. Another Alabama Pro Day is in the books. All 32 teams were represented, as well as GMs from the Jets and the Giants. Today is the 3rd consecutive season that Aniana is going to be here. The past 2 seasons, the Redskins have walked away without a ring. It's Black Friday, but no one's in the halls tonight. You know, a lot of struggles with Jameis Winston going on right now.
Yeah,
what advice would you give him?
I'm just so disappointed.
I know a lot of people have watched your dad in the public eye. They've seen his character, the players he's produced, and the impact he's had on people. What don't they know about your father?
That he really is the person in public that he is.
All right, are the helmets high school football players are using in our state as safe as they're designed to be?
As teams get ready for spring training, we're taking a closer look at the helmets that children are wearing. Britton Lynn has this On Your Side investigation.
Increased scrutiny about the safety of helmets and the long-term effects of concussions have parents concerned. Who's responsible for keeping your child safe? Here's what you need to know. There are currently no laws in the state of Alabama requiring helmets to be reconditioned and recertified. Therefore, the decision is left to the school's coach or principal. Oftentimes, a limited budget keeps the schools from spending as much as they should on helmets.
Some helmets have missing cushion. So, you know, and some coaches, I hate to say, they'll take that chance of trying to play a player without the right equipment, or they would take this out and put it into a new helmet, which this cushion doesn't belong in another type of helmet. It becomes a liability not only for that coach, it becomes a liability for that school and also that school system.
Alabama High School Athletic Association oversees the rules regarding middle school and high school football equipment. AHSAA recommends helmets be reconditioned and recertified every other year, but it's not required. We sat down with Greg Brewer, the director of officials, to help clarify. What are the requirements for those coaches and schools in terms of middle school helmet protection?
We don't have any.
Okay, so just high school?
Not even high school.
What are the rules in terms of helmets? So there's 0 rules? Because
Well,
I thought
the
the
Federation
rule was...
requires, I mean, you have to wear a helmet. Yes, okay, the Federation, yes, there is a rule that says you have to wear a helmet. And the helmet has to have the 4-prong chin strap. And that's the only thing that you'll see in any rule book requiring any requirement about helmets.
I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, so just clarify. But reconditioning is not required by middle schools for helmets every year or every 2 years?
Well, it's not required by us or the National Federation, but it's kind of understood that that's what's going to happen. They do it every year, whether it's required or not, because that's common sense, you know.
Unfortunately, that's not the case. We found at least one school that said they wait as long as 3 years before helmets are reconditioned and recertified, which means those helmets are more likely to have cracks, missing parts, or be past their 10-year mark. We also found multiple schools where records were lost because of a changeover of coaches, something we also asked AHSAA about.
It's up to the person who's in charge of the school, which is the principal, to make sure that he or she hires competent people.
In late January, we sent a records request to every public school in the state, asking for their helmet records. Because helmets are purchased and recertified with tax dollars, there should be a record of those purchases. But since January, only 6 schools have shared their records. They are Pike County, Goshen, Enterprise, Albertville, Athens, Alex City, Wicksburg, Leeds, and Homewood. And we'll continue to petition the schools for this information and add it to our database on myfoxal.com and the WBRC app as it comes in. In the meantime, we encourage you to ask questions. Find out when your child's helmet was last reconditioned and recertified. And tomorrow night, We'll show you about the cleanliness of these helmets, what you need to do to keep them germ-free.
Welcome to Hurt-Bot Park Stadium.
There's something just in the nature of the game that you don't get in anything else. It's going to grab hold of you because it's just got it. There's so much raw emotion, raw passion, and it's so much of what we're missing in society.
Humble, joyful, quiet. Words not often associated with football. But Kai Christianberry isn't your typical athlete.
Good, Kai! Yeah, that's good!
Only Kai can lift up his teammates without saying a word.
Eagle pride. I'm deaf.
The fact that Kai even chose to play.
Why?
Despite the difficulty of communicating with his teammates, is one miracle.
You know, I'll look at the safety or the interpreter on the sideline.
But even more amazing is that Kai is here.
We got a phone call about Kai saying he was this amazing 13-year-old boy that was going to have nowhere to live very soon, and would we consider bringing him home?
153 million orphans estimated worldwide. It was only 3 years ago when Kai was living that statistic.
In China, families reject their deaf kids. If they have a deaf child, they don't want them. They don't like deaf people. They take them to the orphanage. They just get rid of them.
Less than a year away from his 14th birthday, time was running out.
They generally age out of the system, and so that means they no longer have a place to live.
He would just basically be out on the streets at 14, 15 years of age to fend for himself, to beg, if he was lucky, get some sort of factory job.
That's when the Christianberry family opened their home.
Sometimes you just know something is right.
And then the football team is also like a family, like brothers and sisters.
When we just take a look at the guy sitting beside us and thinking, man, you know, this guy was in an orphanage in China and he's fixing to get kicked out, and it's, you know, that argument I have with my parents doesn't seem like such a big deal anymore, or doing poorly in that test, or Susie breaking up with me, all that stuff. I mean, it's not, it really tends to minimize our troubles.
From never having seen the game of football.
That's part of the whole new world thing. It's like being at Disney World every day.
To changing his teammates' perspective.
There's somebody that our kids see on a daily basis and they say, well, good gracious, you know, look at everything that this kid's had to come through to get to the point that he's at, and then look at the hurdles that he still has to jump just to compete with us, and he doesn't let it faze him.
After only a few months of playing.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Because one deaf person on the team.
Eagle, you got me? Yes, sir!
Britton Lynn, Fox 6 News.
1, 2, 3, 4, let's go!